Okay, this is going to attach to lesson 1.7. Consider it part 2, okay? From yesterday. We're dealing with domain and range now. So yesterday we did domain and range with functions that kind of went on forever. There's only really one restriction to them. Maybe they're above a number on the y-axis. Maybe they're below. These are a couple of functions that are different. They have restrictions on the x, and they have restrictions on the y. So we just got to learn how to write them in the proper form. So we're going to deal with our red function first. You guys are going to get into something like this when we get into chapter 6. Okay? Don't worry about it for now. We just got to learn how to put the domain and range. So what happens with this function here, on the x-axis, so we have our x and our y. On the x-axis, this function goes from -8, so we can even put a little dotted line. It goes from -8 to +2. It exists on every single point because it's a line in there. There's no points where it cuts off, anything like that. So when we go to write the domain, once again we're going to start with x, element of all real numbers. So we write with our x, our e, and our r again because we have a continuous line. This time though, the restriction will be different. We're going to start with negative, so the number that goes farthest to the left, our -8. And we're going to say that x is greater than and equal to -8, and it is less than and equal to +2. Okay? So I have two restrictions on the x. It exists everywhere between -8 and +2. So we write this x, element of all real numbers, or is every real number, between, and what that says there is -8 is less than and equal to x, and x is less than and equal to +2. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Jordan. Sorry. Still got to do the range of this function. Range, exact same idea. We're still working on this function. I drew it a little below where I want to go, but we're going to say that this function's lowest point is +2, and the highest point on this function is +7. So, same idea. We start off y, element of all real numbers, but the restrictions this time are 2, less than and equal to y, less than and equal to 7. So if we take a look, I can almost box. I can put a box around where this function is going to exist. It's going to go from here to here to here and here. This is the only area that this function exists. Okay? I have to draw those specifically for you. We're not going to be working with formulas. So on your test tomorrow, you'll have something that will maybe look like this, this, or this, and you'll have to give me a domain and range with 2 restrictions on it. Okay? We'll do another one. That was for our red example. Our green example, same idea. Let's do our domain. So on the x, I'm going to say that it touches this line. The farthest left that this function goes is +1. The farthest right it goes is +7. So, once again, we start with x, element of all real numbers, such that, and we go from 1, x is less than and equal to 1, sorry, greater than and equal to 1, and less than and equal to +7. Because this function exists between 1 and 7. Okay? Range, our y-axis, the highest point it goes is -2, lowest point is -8. Same idea. Numbers. This time it exists between -2. Oh, sorry, technically -2 is the greatest number there. -8 to y less than and equal to 2. -2. Thank you. Same idea. I can still draw a box around an area where this function only exists. Okay? Once again, it only exists in that area. I put circles, it means it's stopping. It's not going forever. If I ever write an arrow on it, that means this function is going to continue. That means there'll probably be no restrictions on it, or it'll be maybe just one restriction. Okay, guys? So what I'm going to get you to do now, so I'm going to pause this. I'm going to get you guys to try writing it for the blue line. Okay? Just the blue line. Okay, finally, our straight line. Our straight line, we'll start with domain again. Do the blue. If we look at our x-axis, this function exists all the way to the left at -8 and -2. So, when we go to write our domain, x, element of all real numbers, we draw our straight line down. We do the number that is farthest to the left first. Okay? Always the number that is the least. So the greatest negative or the least positive. In this case, -8 is less than or equal to x, and x is less than or equal to -2. So that is the domain of this linear function we have, our straight line. The range, same idea, because it is a straight line, y is element of all real numbers, every real number. We put our straight line down. It exists from -7 all the way up to -2. So -7, -2, and we have our domain and our range. That is the whole page right there. And like we showed before, we can pretty much draw a box that encompasses the area. So it only exists between those 2 points. That's what our domain and range are telling us. In this area is the only time that this function exists. Doesn't exist to the right, left, above, or below. We have 2 restrictions. That's because there's stopping points on this. Okay?